and welcome 20 anime lovers versus 1 anime hater. I think anime is for kids. Let's say it like that.
I'm already really intimidated looking into your eyes. How can anime be for kids if there's lots of boobs in it? Yep. Come on, guys, you know, that was good. That was
I think he's got me on that one. I don't think we want kids seeing boobs, right?
3, 2, 1.
What's your name?
Matt.
Max. Nice to meet you.
Hentai. It's hentai for kids. It's hentai for kids.
Is hentai anime?
Hentai is anime.
If you,
hentai is
as an anime fan, want hentai to represent your whole genre, then you be my guest. But
The question is it for kids?
3, 2, 1.
yes. All right, what's your name?
My name is Reed. Nice
Max.
to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
I have to disagree with you, first of all, because a lot of anime are made at an intellectual level that is not for kids at all. Evangelion, for example, not for children in its themes.
Yeah, so it's difficult to define an entire genre as content that is just childish, right? And I'm not trying to make that argument with anime.
No,
I think
don't
you can
think
take
are.
content from anything that's not live action, that's stop motion, that's animated, and say there's some that's for kids and some that's not for kids, based on the content itself. My argument is less so about the storylines and the plots, and less so the way anime presents itself
So
as
more
media.
about the physical, like,
Well, right,
what you're
because
seeing.
my argument is that anime is very overly stimulating and appealing to the eye when you look at the way characters present themselves and the way the
Okay.
visuals are. And I think that something like that, that's so stimulating, is much more easy and catching to a child's brain. It's something that is there for a child to pay attention to and be stimulated by in a way that someone who's older as an adult can give more knowledge to an actual plot line might not care as much about. And for that reason, I think it's childish.
So you think that more of the visual, the color representation, and more like from the art base
Yes.
is what is causing it
Yes,
to be
because
childish?
adults
Okay.
don't need that. But
Okay.
but kids will get into that more so, and
Okay.
it'll keep them hooked.
I raise you on that. I raise you on that because there's also things, think of like, if you were to put a show on for a kid, they're more likely to enjoy like a Marvel movie than if you put on, say, just because it's right here, Evangelion, because a lot of shows are slow starters.
Okay, don't acknowledge the fact.
Yeah. Nah, we're good. I'm listening to
The
you.
animation is there for a reason, but in not all aspects of it are there to present to children. Like there are more, not like sexualized art styles, but there are more mature art styles that aren't necessarily made to appeal to kids. Like the Junji Ito series that they did is very art-based and not more on that kind of wave. Or there's like Project Ito's works are very more adult themed and more adult like animated at like a higher level that's not made to appeal to children, or even shows that aren't done in a color grade that would even appeal to people with shorter attention
Of course,
spans.
and I think there are plenty of examples throughout the genre where you're going to find different levels of artistic representation. But my point is, when you look at children's shows across the boards, oftentimes we're not looking at just plain old live action shows, right? There's something there, whether it's the outfits or the animations or the color, right? That is a very common trope we see in kids shows throughout media, and that is something that is consistent throughout the entire genre of anime, which is why it's easier for kids.
Pause. That's 10 flags.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, you did good.
Three, two, one.
Wow, okay.
What's your name, by the way?
Manny.
Manny? Max.
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Going to what I was hearing earlier about outfits. So a lot of the times, if it's not, of course, like clearly so, like weirdly like over-sexualized stuff that kind of comes up here and there with like really revealing
Right, I think we
outfits.
can both agree that over-sexuality in anime is not for children at all. I'm not here to say that
Precisely.
that's for kids. Let's make that very clear, everyone.
Right, but certain exaggerated clothing, kind of like maybe like My Hero, like a bunch of crazy outfits to kind of show off their powers and stuff like that, right? Part of like a more mature side of what's going on in these shows. Not to say that that one is, But a good example to say that there are media that have like plain clothing styles and a more deeper hidden meaning behind these plots. I like to give the manga Goodnight Poon Poon a good example. Things like that, which is not made for children for sure. The reason why it's not for kids is because that story kind of depicts many of these kind of ideologies in a really like bizarre way. More so kind of like internal trauma, like a lot of profanity, violence, themes of assault, which of course should not be displayed in any way to a child. Its target audience not only being for adults, because it's not a book made for kids, clearly.
Sure.
Even when you go to a Barnes & Noble, you'll see it sealed up by the plastic because
So,
there are things in it that you don't
Just
want
out
to
of
show kids.
curiosity, what do you think is more traumatizing and harmful
Pause.
to a child?
That's 10.
Okay.
Can we finish?
Can you finish your sentence?
Okay. Sure.
I'm not here to argue that those are concepts that children should be exposed to a lot or that are even for kids, right?
Right.
But what I will say is that anime as a genre is confined to its artistic expression, the way it's visually presented, right? And I guess I would ask you then, if you had to pick your child to see a violent act being performed on someone or whatever inappropriate thing it is, would you rather have your child see that from live action cinema or from an anime?
All right, cut.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Realize that way.
First person to the table in 3, 2, 1.
I used to play basketball.
Max,
Misha.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yes, anime, as depicted in mainstream media, is very childlike. But that's because the mainstream media, like the anime that is being shown to a lot of people, is from specifically the shonen or the shoujo aspect, the genres, which are made for children. Sho means like smaller.
Sure.
Nen means like boy. Jo means girl. So smaller boys. Like anime is meant for smaller, younger individuals, younger men or younger girls, right? But also animation in American like styles are also having those sense of genres too. My Little Pony is made for like younger girls, and then we also have like Clarence or like The Amazing World of Gumball made for younger male individuals, audiences.
Right.
There are still topics that are being depicted in anime that are not made for children, which
in Western animes or
in Japanese animes too. But storylines across both across the world
Sure.
can be not meant for children. So to say that anime is specifically meant for children or is for kids, I don't think is a very accurate nomination of anime as a art form.
Look, anime is about storytelling, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that anime as an art form can have deeper meanings that are not for kids within the literature, right? But I think you even agreed with yourself in there that anime as a medium of art can show children and expose children things in a way that's maybe easier and less inappropriate than it otherwise would be. I think we can all agree that seeing someone have their head cut off in a cartoon is much more childish or for children than having them have that happen in a live action film. And look, I'm not here to say that, look, anime can never express real meaning in a story that resonates with adults too, but the inherent nature of the art form is childish if we're going to be showing these overly stimulating images that maybe are easier for a child to engage with than an adult.
All right,
Would you
time's
agree with
up.
that?
Yeah.
That was it. That was 10 minutes. All right, good.
3, 2, 1.
What's up, Max?
Good to see you, Gianni.
Love you, bro. Guys, Max, great friend from high school. Love him, but his whole point is just inherently flawed. So your main point was that if you were to choose what your kid to watch for animation, getting beheaded, or live action, you choose animation, right?
Sure.
Well, that
It's
completely
not, I don't
doesn't-
want to say that's my main point, but it's a point.
I would say that was your main point, which it does kind of make sense. Of course, I'd want my kid to watch the animation rather than the live action, but I wouldn't show them either. So why is it just inherently more for kids if I'm watching the animation? That doesn't make sense. Does it make sense?
Well, the point I made is that something that is animated is less traumatizing to a child than it would be if it's
Okay.
live action.
Okay.
Which inherently makes it more childish, more
Okay.
for kids.
I highly
right?
I highly disagree with you. If I showed my kid Berserk, would they not be traumatized from that?
I'm not
Does that make
familiar
sense?
with Berserk.
Well,
Talk about
exactly.
it.
Okay, well then maybe you should get more familiarized. Is that the right word? Get more familiar, dog. Because that doesn't make sense.
I don't need to spend my time watching niche indie
Yeah,
animes,
exactly.
okay? I have better things to do with my time.
This is what I'm saying. Your point does not inherently make any sense. Of course, I do agree with you. Anime was maybe inherently made for kids, but that doesn't mean adults
Okay,
don't
but
watch
to
anime. or love it.
describe Berserk to me, Gianni.
I don't want to, just for the sake of getting demonetized. I don't want to. And of course, as my great friend Matt brought up, the interesting niche of anime that begins with an H, that is also inherently not for kids. So while I do agree with you, anime in general maybe might be more catered towards children, as you were saying, like Shonen, what we're saying it was made for kids. There's so much other.
That
Vinland
describes my
Saga.
argument,
That-
Gianni.
Okay,
right?
yeah, of course.
You go through kid TV shows, right? I mean, there's kid TV shows that are animated in America that are Western shows, right? But I don't think anyone's gonna go and say Family Guy is for kids, right?
No,
It's not.
disagree.
And it's the same thing applies to anime.
Okay.
But overall,
Okay,
as a
overall.
genre, compared to live action media, and even the way the images are presented and the art is presented,
Okay.
is more childish.
Okay, maybe you could say it's more childish, doesn't mean it's for children. And I think it's just an immature view to have if you're saying people who love anime are watching a kid's show. How does that make sense to you?
I don't think people who love anime are often watching kids shows, but I think if you're gonna make a show and you wanna make it for kids, it's a hell of a lot easier to make it for kids if you're gonna make it animated versus live action.
Okay, I agree with that, but again, with my Berserk argument, does that make it
I'm
for
not, no,
kids
I'm,
just
I'm
'cause
not
live
showing my
action?
kids Berserk if that's what you're trying to do.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. But I think
But I'm also not letting my kids watch like Stewie Griffin like talk with Brian about all the things they say. Right?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. But then you inherently agree with us that anime is not just made for kids. I think that's what we're all agreeing.
My argument is not that,
it's not just
every
made for
single
kids.
anime is for kids.
Okay.
My argument is
Okay.
that the art style that anime presents itself in is more childish
Okay.
and therefore lends it to be more for kids than live action media.
Okay, well, I could come to an agreement with that statement. That sure, I think you changed up your argument a little bit though. That sure,
I think I
the
made that
animation
pretty
is
clear
more...
from the beginning, Johnny. I think I made that pretty clear when I talked with her.
Bro, I was going, bro. I was going. All right, good. Hey, good. Dude, I was going crazy.
Max, whenever you're ready.
Anime is over sexualized.
3,
Go ahead.
3, 2, 1.
Yeah, just you this time. Also, you get to grab the mic.
Greetings.
Greetings. What's your name?
CC.
CC Max Caps. Nice
Nice
to meet you.
Okay, so the prompt is that anime is over-sexualized.
Yes, I think
Can you
anime is
please-
over sexualized.
Yeah, can you explain that? Or just like a summary?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look across the genre of anime, not even including hentai, you see a lot of not only just animations that focus on the female body and the way it presents itself to engage viewers, but also a frightening amount of over-sexualization of children, which I think is problematic for the genre overall.
I do agree with the children aspect of it. I think sexualization in children is just wrong. I don't think necessarily that like sexualization in anime is particularly bad if it's tasteful. Like JJK, like I feel like they kind of appeal to the female gaze a little bit. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is not really sexualized at all. Psychopaths, not really sexualized at all. Attack on Titan, there might be like little bits of it for the female gaze, and these are all I would feel like mainstream animes. I just think it's like a perspective thing. Like you kind of just have to like turn your perspective into like animes that aren't doing that. There are animes like High School DxD, but then like that's the point of the anime. There are like animes where like the genre is like I'm gonna bounce my titties and shake my booty, you know what I mean? But like that's like
Does that happen in mainstream storytelling though? I don't
but
think
it
that
doesn't
happens.
happen necessarily in like mainstream anime. Like I don't think like in Attack on Titan, like My Hero Academia, like they're not like bouncing their titties. Like Attack on, like did I say Attack on Titan? Like
Look.
a lot of like. But there's nothing wrong with that if it's tasteful. I think if like someone is dying and all of a sudden she's like bouncing her titties and stuff like that, that's like distasteful. But if it's like, you know, like there's nothing wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with it as long as it's tasteful and it's for adults and it's not minors.
All right, flags.
Wait, everyone got scared when I started to mention ass shaking.
You made some good points, but I guess not everyone else thinks that. So goodbye.
They don't know what they're talking about.
3, 2, 1.
Hello!
You got a mic? You're mic'd up?
Yeah, I'm mic'd up.
All right.
So I actually,
Max, by the way.
we don't need to do the handshakes. All right. So, look, I actually think anime is under-sexualized, but you want to know why? Wait, no, let me finish. Put your hand up, put the hand up. Let me cook. No, let me cook.
Aidan, you get to say 1 point, but then you must go.
Okay, I will. My 1 point, okay, is look, like Cece said, there's you can sexualize both sides, right? Boom, whatever.
Yeah.
But since like 2005, there's this genre, right? It's called the ecchi genre, which means wait, guys, please. I didn't get to argue with y'all. Give me a chance.
Please go to the table in 3, 2.
Hold on, let me fix this. All right, Matt, good to see you again.
See you again.
All right, you got a mic?
Just kidding. I disagree because I think out of everyone here, I have a pretty Western view of anime. I watch dub.
What is Western view of anime mean?
I watch dub. I'm new to anime, right? I will say, Hollywood is very over-sexualized. I remember when I was a kid watching Transformers, seeing Megan Fox lift up that hood.
Yeah.
That was pretty sexualized for me, and I was young, right?
Is that good or bad?
If we're talking about over-sexualized, that's bad, right? So I can say Hollywood is just as over-sexualized as anime, Like Black Widow, she wears her tight suit. That's pretty sexualized to me.
Yeah, I think the difference is with anime, you have an entire fan base where the idea of pedophilia is a bit more ambiguous than it can be in any other kind of genre, right? That is a norm within the anime community that I've observed, and I think that's problematic, and that's why I would argue that anime is over-sexualized.
I think he cooked me.
All right, the flags are up.
All right.
Ivan, nice to meet you.
Max.
So I want to start by asking, do you think that the things you were just describing, is that more common in anime than other sources of media like television or movies?
I think that's a fair point, and there's plenty of sexualization. Even if you look at shows in Hollywood that have sexualized children, right? That's bad.
Right.
The problem is the ambiguity. The problem is with drawings and cartoons, it's a little bit more normalized and acceptable socially to see a drawing of someone who's a 10-year-old and be attracted to that, unless it's compared to it being a kid in an actual show that's live action, right? That's problematic to me because it still allows people to practice those mind behaviors when they shouldn't be doing that.
Right, and my point goes into, you look at a show like Euphoria or Riverdale, shows that are clearly also sexualizing, people who are explicitly depicted to be underage. And that is also considered a very mainstream show in Western audiences. Now, would you say that those shows also represent the entire media of television as a whole? Because if we're using the singular individual examples from anime to represent the entire genre, then you should be able to do the same thing for a show like Euphoria or Riverdale, who are clearly showing these children, these teenagers who are explicitly depicted to be in their teens, doing drugs, having relations that are more than friendly. So I think that if you're looking at it as the genre of anime shows this more than others, I think the same should be shown for movies and for television, as my main point.
No, it's a fair point. I would just argue that you're wrong by saying that the shows like Euphoria are just as much of a minority in Western media as shows that are more problematic with sexualization as they are in anime. I think they're much more prevalent. From my experience with anime, obviously I have my biases, but I stand firm in my belief that anime is more sexualized to that extent than Western media.
Gotcha, and I'll respect your personal perspective on that. But as a whole, I do believe that if we're using the individual examples that we have personally experienced, because I haven't personally watched that many animes that over-sexualize the characters. I tend to avoid shows like that in general. So does that mean that because I don't see them, that the genre doesn't have those as an issue? I watch shows like, Dragon Ball, like One Piece, shows that they might have it in there, but not to the same extent as other shows. Does that mean that my personal experience is going to dictate the entire genre?
It shouldn't. And you know what? I think voices like you are important. More people like you should represent the anime community because you're right. It's important to understand that it's the minority. But to people like me in America who understand anime not from watching a ton of series, but seeing clips online and seeing the videos these motherfuckers make, then yeah, you know?
I feel you.
Right? But that's my point. Is that 10 or we switching? Yeah.
So 10-5.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Hi, Max. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, I'm Ray.
Ray?
I don't think necessarily anime is over-sexualized. I think particularly like the Japanese culture is over-sexualized.
What does that mean?
So I was just in Tokyo. Everything in Japan, I would say that they lean more towards sexualizing these types of stuff more than like other cultures. It's not necessarily the anime. I would say it's more than what it came from.
But isn't anime as a medium of Japanese culture by extension over-sexualized if Japanese culture is?
That is true, but you could say that about other cultures as well. You could say that about like Western culture, about how Westerners tend to, idolize like, women with big boobs. They show that a lot in like live action. And
You see it a lot in anime too.
You see that a lot in anime too, but again, it's something that the Japanese tend to like more than.
So it's okay when Japan does it because they like the titties more than we do.
That's also not what I'm saying.
All right, so I was being a bit of an ass there, but we'll talk more.
No, that's okay.
Good to meet you. Next topic. The anime community ruins anime.
In 3, 2, 1. That was a great time.
I'm Esteban.
Max, nice to meet you.
Can I have you explain why is it toxic?
Yeah. When you look at the way fans interact with the media itself, there's a lot of gatekeeping and there's a lot of unnecessary ranking systems that I think lead to exclusion and resentment rather than just overall acceptance within the community. For example, I have often seen anime fans say, oh, if you haven't watched this anime or this specific niche indie anime, then you're not a real fan. And I think that mindset is problematic and leads to the community being perceived as toxic.
Okay, don't you think that's also very common in other forms of media? Such as like music. I feel like it was very common with music though, with a thing where it's like, oh, if you haven't listened to this artist, you're not a real fan. Name 3 songs of like
I
Nirvana.
think there's plenty of like musicians who you can say their fan base is toxic.
But
right?
it's not just musicians in the end, it's also just like TV shows.
I don't think there's a whole, let's put it this way. You could say that some musicians have a toxic fan base. You could say that some TV shows have a toxic fan base. Then you could say that about like Rick and Morty, for example, right? But my point is though, anime, I don't think anyone's coming out and saying that fans of music or fans of television overall are toxic. But I think you could make that argument much stronger about anime when you look at its fan base.
Isn't it the same way, like you just said, like some
there's
toxicity
everywhere.
Yeah, there's toxicity
but
everywhere.
There's a higher presence of it in anime based on the way fans talk about this.
I think that's more of a loud minority rather than a majority of fans. Because I've been to multiple conventions myself. I've met people. I feel like most people I've met that are big fans of anime, just like anime, they don't like really properly gatekeep it. You're just talking about like a very loud minority where it's like, they're just like weird. I agree that there's weird people.
Problem is when it
There's weird
comes
people
to
everywhere.
content creation, these content creators and these influencers have an outside voice compared to other genres as a whole. And if you want your fandom, anime, to stop being perceived as such, then more people need to create content that doesn't perceive that message or spread it.
Okay, I get where you're coming from. Actually, yeah, TheAnimeMen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe you shouldn't get a girlfriend.
Yeah, I should. You're right. I'm not.
3, 2, 1.
Good to see you, man.
Good to see you, man.
Oh, yeah.
Max is one of my good high school friends. So
He's
we
my
know
best
each other
friend
very
right
well.
here.
So your argument is that gatekeeping is the toxic part.
Yeah, I think gatekeeping is a trait and a behavior you see in a lot of people in communities that are toxic. Yes.
Yes, of course. So I actually don't think that in itself makes anime or the community toxic.
Why?
Right? Because I think the majority of the community is actually accepting of other people and bringing them into the topic of anime.
You think these guys are accepting?
I think they're. I actually would argue that they are accepting. In fact, the TheAnimeMen specifically make videos about anime that have very specific jokes and things that tailor to that audience. But I think that they aren't gatekeeping, if that makes sense. And in fact, they actually expand their audience by making music videos to popular songs and such, which I think actually creates an environment where they're actually being more inviting than they are.
See, I think you're wrong. You're talking about maybe a community of creators here that have done a great job, but I think so often you go into spaces where people really engage with the content, and you find someone that they're just gonna say, oh, well, this character in this season is this amount of powerful, and this person in this episode, who would beat who in this dynamic, and it's all this back and forth and arguing and twisting their nutsacks around, and it's come on now, that's not what this is about. It's fun, but you can't get so upset about arguing the semantics of the topic if you want it to be fun. And I see that too often when I've seen anime being perceived outside. And let's also make this clear. I am perceiving all these arguments as someone who is not a part of the anime community.
Of course.
And that's important when you're talking about a genre making its way into being more mainstream, right? You can have your spaces in the community that work, but if people outside aren't seeing it as such, which I think it's fair to say there's a substantial amount of people who share my feelings outside of the anime community, then what's the point?
Yeah, no, that's a great argument. Still, the outside take doesn't define what a community is as its whole, right? That's just a perspective that maybe you have, and I'm sure other people have too. But being in the actual community itself, it's not that toxic, right? And I believe this because, sure, there are people that have these debates. Most of them are actually just funny, friendly banter, right? I would say that there's maybe the 1%, it's a little too heated, right? But I think that's a reflection on themselves, individually, and it doesn't affect the entire community, if that makes sense. It's only a very small minority. So the community itself is not toxic. That would be my debate.
I would disagree, but
yeah, I think that's all
I have no more on this topic.
Yeah.
That was good. If anyone else would like to debate this, please go to the table in 3, 2, 1.
All right, I'm gonna leave you there. Hello.
Oh, your guys' shoelaces tied together.
Yeah. So you think the anime community is what ruins anime? Honestly, I think the anime community makes anime better.
Why?
Look at where anime was 10 years ago.
I don't know, where
People
was it 10 years
people
ago?
were made fun of
There was
for
no
liking
community
anime.
10 years ago.
People were made fun of for liking anime.
Good.
People were bullied, but now it is so more welcome than it was 10 years ago because of the community. Look at all the expos and conventions where all these fans come together. I know, man. Right? No, what do you mean? Okay, no. You guys agree. You guys agree. You guys all agree. You too. Because think about it. Think about it, Matt. So basically, the anime community is what brings anime more open, right? Look at all the Crunchyroll awards or all these award shows. All these big celebrities are coming out into the open of their love for anime because of what the community brings. It's not like Star Wars. Because you look at communities in Western media, they are way more toxic than the humanity community.
How are they toxic?
Do I even need to go into that?
Yeah, what? How is a Star Wars fan more toxic?
You're toxic.
I'm toxic.
You're toxic. You're toxic.
See, that's ad hominem. You're insulting me. That's bad.
I'm insulting you. You're insulting me. Your tie's uneven. Fix your tie. You know I will. Let's go, Matt. No.
Walk away. Go.
I'm walking.
Good boy.
3, 2, 1.
Alright. 10 seconds.
Welcome to the
Summarize
booth.
report. My name's Kaide. Summarize
Speak.
report. No, summarize report real quick. I was falling asleep. It was boring. Speed it up.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I don't think I need
You're
to-
crazy.
If you're falling asleep
You're
to
insane.
what I say, then
You're
I'm gonna
manipulating me
repeat
now
myself.
too. What?
I don't need to speak again for someone who's fallen asleep.
Stinky points, bro. Everything you say is cap. We're right.
Next topic. Cosplaying is weird.
All right, if you would like to go up.
Treat, nice to meet you.
Max.
So I disagree with that, and I would like to ask, what make it weird for you?
Yeah, well, I'll just say this. There's nothing wrong with cosplaying. I think if someone finds enjoyment out of doing cosplaying, then they should do it. But I don't think anyone would say it's normal or a thing that's not weird, right? Define weird as something that's not normal and maybe a little bit strange way to behave. And I don't think anyone would argue or find it accurate that cosplaying isn't weird.
I can see that. So, okay, from your perspective, it's usually reinforced from stereotyping. That's usually make your brain lump down everything, just kind of break it out over a individuality of how someone can be very complex as a person. We want to express itself. What's considered weird to you because it is out of your social norm? Something can be, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. Especially in America, there's a lot of diverse culture in here, so you get to see a lot of perspective. Like for cosplayer, there's in Asia, Vietnamese, Chinese, Korean, Japanese. We it's not just essentially just a hobby. It's also like a way for us to express ourselves. There's a bunch of holiday that you can
How do
dress
you
up.
express yourself, though, by pretending that you're someone that you're not? That I don't understand. Explain that to me.
Okay, you're not technically pretending as someone else. You're showing your love for the character. And a way to do it is, for cosplaying, saying that is also a little bit vague. It's oversimplifying a lot of point as well.
And what's the difference between dressing up in a costume and cosplaying?
For that point, it's the same because in America, Halloween, you're allowed to wear a costume. It's just a Western way to saying that. For cosplay, it's just how most people in Asia decide to it's just a word that we define ourselves.
Okay, so it's the same thing as dressing up for a costume.
Yeah, it's kind of, there's nothing weird about it. It's weird because your brain's reinforce older stereotype. And because it's...
Yeah, I think, so I don't think it's weird to dress up. I think it's weird if you internalize it, right? If you're dressing up, constantly internalizing, this is a second secret identity I have, and that's weird. And I think that's something I have observed in a lot of the anime community, frankly.
You cannot say that. I disagree. Because that's take a very minority and just kind of sum it up.
Okay, and that's weird. That's weird, right? It's weird if you're dressing up as something and thinking that internalizing the identity of what you're dressing up as.
Out of your social norm, your brain thinking of that's very narrow-minded, especially in America. There's so many different cultures out there.
Yeah,
it's just a way for us to express ourselves. And
all right, that's 10. Please walk off.
Thank you.
3, 2, 1.
Hello,
Hi.
my name's Athena.
Max, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So before I continue, I would just like you to reiterate your point directly to me. Okay.
Yeah, so the point I made last is that cosplay, if you want to do it and it's the way you want to enjoy yourself, that's fine. But it's weird, especially if you're internalizing the identity that you are dressing up as when you're cosplaying.
So I understand where you're coming from, but you do have to acknowledge not all cosplayers do that. Personally, when I cosplay, I don't view myself as that character. I view myself as expressing my appreciation and love for this character. And the basis of that is outside of a hobby. It is to connect with others. And then cosplay in itself is a very popular hobby. And again, self-expression is very important. So cosplay aside, when other people indulge in their hobbies, do you find their hobbies weird?
It depends on the hobby. I think my point is that if you want to dress up as something, that's fine. But if you're going around dressing up like a dog and barking like a dog, that's weird. And I don't think that's normal. Again, I still fully support their right to bark like a dog if they want to. Go ahead and do it. But that's weird. And again, we'll extrapolate overall in the anime community as you have people that are in character and sort of taking on the identity and role and acting out their character often for extended periods of time, right? I think that's weird, right? Because then you're ignoring yourself and you're ignoring your life as a person, an actual person, and that's weird.
So before I continue to my next point, I do want to acknowledge, yes, while that is a thing, there is a generalization. You are blurring the lines between cosplay and identifying as something. And when you cosplay, you don't inherently identify. So creating that generalization is unfair to the cosplay community as a whole. And again, on top of that, it is a hobby. It is something people make careers out of. It is a form of self-expression.
And that's a normal way to make a career?
I mean, are freelances artists normal careers?
No, and then you could say that's weird though, too. Doesn't mean it's bad, it's just weird. It's not normal. Isn't that what weird is? Something that's not normal?
But it's only not normal because you have that prejudice in your mind. If you look past what you already view as weird.
Good job.
Next person, if you would like to debate this, please walk to the table in 3, 2, 1. Ooh.
She got it.
It's
welcome
nice
back.
Nice to see you again. So this is, okay, I have a lot to say on this one.
Okay.
I'm a cosplayer, not currently, but I do this professionally. This is my job. I make a living off of this, so I have a lot to just expose your brain to on this subject.
Expose me.
So you are definitely adding on to what Athena was saying, blurring a line between cosplayers and a very small minority of the community who get like a very overly emotional attachment and start to identify as a certain character. But let me ask you, have you ever been to Disneyland?
Of course.
Okay. Have you seen the character actors at Disneyland?
Yeah, those are cosplayers.
Exactly. They're cosplayers, but they're specifically in character as those people, and they're getting paid to do that.
What would you call the people then who...
But cosplayers are not necessarily the people who work at Disneyland. So not all cosplayers are going to be emulating that character that they're cosplaying.
So what would you call those people then who are emulating their character?
Character actors. And that is not, a character actor is not a cosplayer.
That's even weirder, damn, okay.
But that's a profession, and people make a lot of money doing that. But cosplay is very different. And while cosplayers can cosplay, you know, like Disney characters or Marvel characters or comic book characters or anime characters, you have to think about how it is also an industry, and it really is an industry in itself. Like, people are selling, you know, their services. Cosplay is one of the only hobbies, I feel, that encapsulates hundreds of different skills and professions and so many different things that take to make it, and saying that that is weird is like saying that all of these other umbrellas underneath it are also weird. In fact, it's actually very impressive to be able to combine so many different skills and efforts and careers and fields into one singular thing, and I feel like there's not many things in terms of hobbies that do that, but that's not inherently weird. I feel like that is actually very impressive to the normal person.
Can't something be both weird and impressive though?
Like, I feel it, I mean, but
like,
that's
isn't
just,
it weird, like, when you have a kid, like, I have a friend, for example,
bias.
and he can multiply, like, 2 3-digit numbers, like, in his head within, like, 10 seconds.
Okay.
That's weird. It's also really impressive.
It's very
right?
impressive.
But, like, it's a little weird. Like, what's going on in your head?
But I also feel like that, that's definitely a statement. I feel like your perspective so far has been inherently negative weird, but here you are also acknowledging that things can be impressive but weird to you.
No, look,
and
I love
in
that people
sense,
that get
it's coming
into
down
what
to
they
your
care about.
personal bias, and you are starting to think less of a whole objectively and more debating on your personal bias.
That's not true, okay? I think that I've made it very clear during this discussion that I think people can have fun, and they should have fun being cosplayers. I have nothing against people doing that and expressing themselves. I just think it's weird, and that's why I don't do it. I mean, you could argue that me wearing a suit to this fucking debate is a little weird, but here we are.
It fits the bill. It's fun.
Isn't that cosplaying though a little bit? So aren't I technically cosplaying right now? But aren't I a little weird for showing up to debate 20 people about anime in a suit?
And
like, that makes me weird.
I even have another point. So, fun fact, and this is kind of a fun fact.
Yeah.
So the word you talked earlier about like Halloween, and you know that's a very good point to bring up, because cosplay can be Halloween. You're dressing up as a character, you know, your kids dress up, your family dresses up, and
Yeah.
so that's a very normalized occasion in the West for people who maybe are into whatever they like. If they're really into Marvel or if they're really into that, that's not weird.
That's normal, but I guess the point is when
Mm-hmm.
people use the word cosplay in media, they're not talking about Halloween. They're not even really talking about someone at like a fair that's like dressing up.
I'm so glad
right?
that you mentioned
They're talking
the
about
word.
motorcycle
No,
made guy.
I'm so glad that you mentioned the word cosplay because that's another fun fact. So a very long time ago, I believe sometime around the 50s or 60s, and somebody fact check me on that, but some kind of convention gathering, I can't remember exactly what it was happening over here in the United States, and a reporter from Japan came to scope it out, check it out, and brought, saw what we were doing here, dressing up as characters from comics and series that we like, and brought that back and wrote an article, and thus the word cosplay was formed by creating, combining costume and play. And when you translate that into, to make it fit into the Japanese language, it comes out as cosplay. And cosplay is that. So it didn't the word itself is literally just describing people dressing up, and that could have been Halloween, that could have been
that's
everything.
fine.
The word itself is the same.
And that's fine. And I guess my point is, I have nothing against people dressing up, but the way cosplay is used in our media often describes more than that, right? It often describes, and obviously it
In
seems
which
like you
media
have a lot.
specifically?
I'm talking about Western media.
Western
Online
media?
people on the internet here in the United States, right?
Okay, and that's from
hold
your
on, let me-
experience
let me-
from not being in the community to see the full depth of that
Absolutely,
media.
I recognize that. But I think my point is if we're having a good faith debate about the word, then the way people understand the word as a whole matters, right? Even if it's necessarily not the definition.
Okay.
That's how language works. It matters. And
Okay.
My
But
take is
could you also argue that do you feel like what type of cosplay are you talking about? Are you talking about people who craft, people who dress up for Halloween, like if cosplay
no,
is
I'm talking
such
about
a
if we're
whole-
talking about like what's objectively weird, we're talking about people
Yeah,
who
what
go
is
out in
objectively
public
weird to you?
and internalize their characters and pretend they're someone they're not. Again, I totally have the right to do that, but I'm saying people, if that's not cosplay,
Have
then
you
that's
experienced
fine.
those people in person? Have you talked to somebody who is genuinely believing that they are that character?
Yes.
And what are the odds that you think you would meet somebody like that if you were to go into a designated space for cosplayers, con goers, anime lovers? What do you think is the probability that you would meet somebody?
I'm sure it's a spectrum, and then there's probably most people like Motorcycle
do
Maid
you
who are
have a
pretty chill,
probability of
actually.
that, though?
But do I what?
It's like
You're asking me, do I have a
it's
problem?
a probability of it.
Oh.
Like it's probably 1 in 500 at least.
Yeah, sure. And then 1 in 500 people are weird, and that's fine.
But when you, I would love.
All right, the next topic is live action will always be better than animation.
Please go up in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi, Max.
Michelle.
Nice to meet you.
So please describe why do you think live action is better than anime?
I think it's not a matter of the art itself. I think something can be great in both categories. My argument is more so if you look at the most impactful pieces of media that have been created, especially in film, some of the greatest movies of all time, they're all live action. You don't see animes mentioned in terms of the most culturally impactful pieces of art that are motion picture, correct?
Correct. So when you say culturally, it does depend on the culture.
Right.
And compared from the US to Asia, it's definitely a huge dynamic of how anime is portrayed and seen.
Yeah.
And for the value that people hold when it comes to action in real life films compared to anime, it does capture like different aspects, but to predominantly say one is better than the other, it does depend on what is in the script, what's depicted throughout the animation, or the way that the camera captures live action.
Do you think anime is better than live action?
It's on playing grounds in the description of arts, because the arts covers a huge variety of media portrayal and just how one is able to express like creativity, whether it's through actual face expressions or like visual scenes, or rather the dynamic that animation can create a whole fantasy, not necessarily to cater to a specific culture, but essentially to bring to life what the text, the script is actually meaning. In terms of being able to add color, being able to bring.
So sorry, your argument is that anime can bring to life more aspects of what's animation than live action, therefore it's better.
With more creative freedom, because there's CGI in live action film, but that does come with a huge budget. When it comes to Marvels, they have a huge budget to be able to disperse all of that. But when it comes to animation, it doesn't matter how much budget one can, but they're able to utilize it through the arts, through the depiction, and their efforts in order to create a whole scene that's able to encapsulate a whole script.
And that's a great argument, and I think the democratization of creativity that animation can bring across the film space compared to getting a high-budget Hollywood film is a great thing, right? But objectively, let's say we're watching with a film with a big spaceship like exploding or something like that. Isn't it way cooler to see it happen in live action than anime?
But isn't that just a utilization of CGI, essentially?
I'm sure, but it's cooler.
It is cooler, but it's also dependent on which culture you're predominantly invested in.
Sure, but that's a great point about the cultures, and it's important to remember that anime and animation cultures are very small, right? And while they are confined to their nations and Western media is confined to the United States, Western media and United States film, particularly stuff produced here in California, have impacted the entire world in maybe a way anime hasn't.
10 flags. You can vote it out.
Let's talk.
3, 2, 1.
I think Gianni got it.
I was low-key cheating, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
All right, welcome back, Gianni.
Max, bro, I'm back. It's good to see you, bro. All right, I think obviously everything's subjective, but I think anime is better than live action.
That's weird. Why?
Really? Is it weird?
Yeah.
Dude, that's not cool, bro. Why are we just resort to insults? Why don't we just be a little bit nice, huh?
All right, bro.
Guys,
no, wait. Let him go. This is gonna be funny.
Okay, I'll be serious. All right, pretend that didn't happen, guys. All right, I think anime in general, objectively, could have a more creative, just everything than live action. Yes or no?
Yeah, no, that's what she said, and
Really?
I think I actually agree with that point.
Okay, and I think it's better.
I don't think that makes it better. I think it makes it more creative potentially.
Let me see. I actually want to hear. Why do you think live action is better than anime, in general, or animation?
I think seeing, and obviously this is subjective, but I think there's a value in seeing someone who looks exactly like you and experiences life in the same ways physically than you when you're understanding a story and the way the story is told makes it easier to relate to the person.
Okay.
And on top of that, again, as I've said earlier, every single piece of media in film that has been the most impactful is live action. You can't say that about anime. Look, anime has played a great role in its community, but you rarely hear talks of Attack on Titan or One Piece having great impacts on the community as a whole. Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right, man. Okay.
Maybe in your little anime reporter blog you might hear that, but it's not coming in the New York Times.
Funny. Okay. I'm not even talk about that. Okay. Why do people go to amusement parks most of the time? So my main argument is escapism, right? People will watch things for that general aspect of life. I think live action, sorry, I'm talking, buddy. Live action in general isn't as much escapism as anime will ever be because they have more of a creative thing where they could literally make anything happen more than live action. As you said, and let's say Flow, for example, won Best Animation. How much did that cost to make? Probably about $100,000. And he was able to make that whole creative thing with animation. And he wouldn't have ever been able to make a cat walking around the earth after a whole natural disaster in live action. It's not possible. And that's why I see the value in animation as more valuable. Obviously, live action is great.
Great film.
Yeah, great film. Oh, you watched it?
Yeah.
Really? Oh, hey. So you agree with me, huh?
That was $4 million?
Huh? $4 million. Okay, what's Avengers Endgame?
No.
What's Avengers Endgame?
Avengers Endgame is like 100.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And okay, continuing, I think just in general, animation, you can make super cool stories with that low budget, and I think that's the coolest thing. I think, let's say, Demon Slayer, For example, although people don't think it's the greatest thing, it had amazing animation and fight scenes that got people more hyped than some of these Avengers movies that cost like $1 billion.
Did they?
Yes, 1,000%.
I don't know about that.
Who put me out, bro? I got people down. Hey, I was cooking. All right. Yeah, good.
Welcome back, scum.
So your argument is that live action
My
is
argument
better.
is that it's both more impactful and it's cooler.
It's cooler?
Yeah.
In what way? I want to know why before I get into it.
I would rather look at a real life person than an animated person. As I said earlier, I would rather see a fight scene in real life than in anime.
So you'd
right?
rather look at you'd
I
rather
wanna
watch a
see
movie.
the
You'd rather
bloody cheeks
you'd
on a
rather watch
person
you'd
from a
rather watch
live-action
Pedro.
movie.
You'd rather watch Pedro Pascal in the same movie role 10 times over than seeing something with complete originality, with limitless budget and creativity.
I think there is
there is so much more to animation than meets the eye. The themes. I'm just gonna say. The themes are way more clear in anime.
We're having a good conversation.
The themes in anime are way more clear. Just look at Attack on Titan, One Piece. Just let me have one more point. You also have to go beyond just live action, like you prefer it. Just look at Hollywood. Maybe 30 years ago I'd agree with you, right? But right now, it's just recycled sequels and movies
that's a
regulated
big problem.
and franchise. But then when you go to anime, let's say you don't like something, right? Let's say something doesn't resonate with you. You can just go on to the next. And that has just as much creativity and originality and passion, right? Because, listen, with a Hollywood movie, people will go see a Leonardo DiCaprio movie despite it being bad or good, just because his face is on the poster. But with anime, you don't get to see that face. You don't get to see who's behind the voice.
All right, this is a long point.
Well, okay, so Gianni got voted out and then he went 5 more minutes?
No, here, wait, finish your point.
I'm just saying, the people behind anime try harder to create something that resonates with a person because of the limitations they have, because it's behind animation. And that's why I say animation is better. Just look at Avatar: Last Airbender. That is not anime, but it's animation. Just look at Attack on Titan.
Ethan.
It was constructed in a certain way to encapsulate viewers because you don't know anything about these characters. But with live action movies, you recognize an actor.
I'm not even gonna lie. Look, I'm not even gonna lie. He cooked with that. Because look at the biggest problem in Hollywood over the past few years has been the ample amount of remakes and sequels and adaptations. And you're right. That's happening because they know they can make money off that. And anime, that's right. People have the budget for that creative freedom. And that's a fair point. I still think I would rather watch a live action movie, but that's a really great point about the creative freedom it gives. So, hell yeah.
All right, thank you. I got voted out, but I just needed to say my piece, all right? Screw you. All right, but thank you.
Anime lines, 3, 2, 1.
Hello again.
Welcome back.
So I just want to clarify before I start. Your argument is live action will always be better than animation as a whole, correct?
I'm arguing that it looks cooler and it is more impactful.
All right, so with that in mind, I'm not going to give you my opinion. I'm going to give you a fact here. Are you familiar with Hamlet at all?
Right.
The Shakespeare story?
Play, yes.
Well, if you look commercially, if you look at critic scores, the best version of Hamlet that has been put on film is Lion King. And that's not my opinion. That's based on the gross domestic money earned. It's earned by the amount of reviews. So in that case, that's not even me arguing the opinion. I don't have to. People have already done it. You see, the thing about animation is you're able to capture certain stories in a way that allows for an expressive way that doesn't, how do I put this?
And it's funny you use Lion King as the example as a story that made more impact as anime, because I would actually disagree that Lion King has had a much greater impact as a Broadway show than it has as a film even, where it keeps getting seen more and more. And that is arguably a live action version of an animated film that people continue to experience.
If you're gonna
so is
argue
it
to
really
me-
just all anime that is the reason Lion King has been so impactful, or
If
is it
you're
live
arguing to
action
me
and anime?
that the Broadway musical of Lion King has been seen more than the film, I can go pull up the stat. I know that's not true. And I was a theater kid. I loved the Lion King Broadway show. However, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's gotten more views, it's gotten a better critical reception, because at the end of the day, it didn't. the
My
original
point is
one.
more though in your one example of anime being incredibly impactful, it still has played a role, live action and both.
Alright.
And people love still seeing that great story. It was such a great anime story, right? That people had to see it in person.
So let
to
me
make
give you a
it better.
second example then, because you're saying I'm going off of one. How about this? There has not been a Spider-Man film that has been more commercially successful than Into the Spider-Verse. That has been better received by critics than Into the Spider-Verse.
Okay.
Both of which was done because, unfortunately, a human being cannot swing around like Spider-Man like an animation
That's fine. They animated Lord of the Rings in the 20th century, right? No one watches that because they made live action versions of that are the most epic movie trilogy ever.
We're
right?
also talking about the studio with the budget of a ham sandwich who made it. We're not talking about someone like Sony, someone like Disney, who, if they were to get the rights to do it, I'm sure would be better. Let's also look, talking about Lord of the Rings, the most recent Amazon series, which was live action, didn't do very good commercially. Are you gonna say that because of that, that one I think might arguably be actually lower reviewed than the original animation? So now we're back to the animation did better than the live action version.
Well, no. With the trilogy is obviously the most successful, whether it's The Hobbit or Lord of the Rings.
Can you think of another one that started as a animation that did better in live action? Because we can go to Disney. Let's see, Snow White did better as the animation. Aladdin did better as the animation. Beauty and the Beast did better as the animation. So we're seeing time and time again that when a story is starting as an animation, it's getting converted over to live action. It's clearly not doing as good. You can say you like the film, you can say, oh, I personally thought it was better. But at the end of the day, if we're using facts and facts alone, the critics are saying that that is objectively better based on average reviews. And if we're going off of real income, those movies, the animations have made more than the live
That's
action
fine, but if you
versions.
go and look up the top 100 shows or top 100 movies of all time, you're probably not seeing much anime on there. And I think that's important to consider when we're talking about the impact of these shows versus anime versus not in the broad scheme of things.
Time's up. I think that's good. I think that's good.
I'm getting tired, man. Good point, though. Our last topic is anime will never be mainstream.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome
Good to
back.
be with you again. Good. Why do you think anime will never be mainstream, even though I kind of think it already is?
Anime will never be mainstream. Again, let's go back to what we were talking about last time. When we talk about some of our most famous shows and most impactful pieces of cinema and film and television, not necessarily anime. At least they're far in the minority, right? That's one factor. Two, I think it goes back to a lot of the rest of our conversation we've had, that the anime community, while it is big and expansive, it's isolated. And because of that, I would argue that it can't be a mainstream topic.
I can go in reverse and say that although you may think it's isolated, it's kind of expanding ever so slightly, and in many ways even. Now, conventions, of course, being hosted here and there are many more niche events other than just conventions being hosted now in different areas, such as like nightclubs and stuff. They kind of have like nights dedicated to like animes and cosplay, or again, more kind of...
Do people who are not part of the community attend these events, though? No,
I feel like
right?
it's mutuals. I feel like, possibly yes, because what would happen is a lot of fans will go and be like, oh, I got a friend, we'll bring them along, and they may as well just put them on that.
Let's put
But
it
in the
this way.
sense of-
I got a lot of friends here who enjoy anime. I don't think I've ever been invited to go to an anime event with any of them. So.
Are you fun at parties?
Alright, you got me.
But I got you. Okay, here we go. But I will say that it is.
I'm wearing a suit to debate people about anime. Do you think I'm fun at parties?
Well, some people got a little fun shirt on the bottom. What you got underneath?
All right, we're gonna yeah. Go there.
There's nothing
You can play that game, dog.
But I will say though, it is plenty mainstream enough. I mean, let's start big. Let's go with the Vegas sphere. As of recently actually, there's been a lot of footage that they've been promoting a One Piece on that insanely. I mean, like I think every few hours in the day they'll play a promo featuring a different character each time, and I think it was like 90-something scenes at once at the same time, kind of spiraling around it. I mean, that's the Vegas sphere. That's already a big thing enough. And that's not enough for you. Irvine Spectrum recently had a collab with Gundam, and they kind of had this whole like timeline Gundam verse. And I'd gone there myself about 2 times. Dude, it was packed all the time. People kind of lining up for the event. People buying at early access, flying in from different states, and that was all also coming alongside the movie that had come out recently for the new Gundam movie, basically. And on the topic of movies as well, some anime movies have been nominated for Oscars. I'm not sure if they won or not, but being nominated for an Oscar is grand enough. I mean, that's a huge opportunity to win.
What's the cat movie called again? Flow. Yeah, that was nominated for. That won. Right?
It won.
That won.
It won. Wow, there you go. You see.
There you go.
You just proved my point.
And that happens, but few and far between, right? And look, I would love for anime to be able to have more wind in the creative space, but it just doesn't, right? You're talking about these events that probably a lot of people attend and are happening, but where are they being talked about? Where are they being covered? The point is, right, someone who's like me isn't seeing this on the main front page of the New York Times. I'm not seeing it in mainstream media. It's out there, but it's
what
not,
about the
it's not
Macy's
showing.
parade?
I'm so
Okay, bet. That's all good.
You did good.
Thank you.
You did great.
Thank you guys.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, this time I'll actually shake your hand.
You
Okay,
shake my,
no, I will
you
shake
be
your
nice
hand this time because I think you did. You made some points, right?
Some points.
I think anime is already mainstream because of one reason, right? What is the go-to streaming platform to watch your shows? One of them.
Netflix.
Yeah, perfect. Netflix. And guess what was the third most watched show of the entire year in 2023? I'm saying 2023 as the main example.
Sure. What was it?
One Piece. And it had 500 million views, the live action one. Okay, but everyone knows the live action. But right, how is that not mainstream enough if it's the third most watched show of the entire year?
One Piece is a mainstream piece of media. I'm not going to
And anime, what is One Piece? It's anime.
It's an anime, right? But it doesn't mean that.
It's mainstream. What? Okay, I'll do another point. Okay, look, every single time. Are you guys done? Wait, give me 1 more second.
The problem is. Hey. This is the problem with the anime community right here.
No way!
You didn't even let me finish. You went off stage. That's crazy. You didn't even want to hear it.
All right, next person up in 3, 2, 1.
So I'm gonna bring up the point that I'll do it myself. Anime is actually already mainstream, and so to go off Aidan's point, he uses Netflix, right? It's not actually just Netflix. It's Hulu. It's Disney Plus. It's almost every big streaming company right now is fighting for the rights to get anime on board, right? So you saying that it'll never be mainstream? It's made huge movement to becoming mainstream, and I would argue that it's still actually is mainstream right now. I could also bring up the point that you have major, you said you don't see anime on a day-to-day basis, but you have major companies right now that will do collaborations to promote their brands using animation or anime. For example, the Lakers, right? The Lakers did a collab with One Piece. I would say that that's a pretty standard, everybody knows the Lakers. You have big companies like Nike, Vans, many more. Designer brands, I'm pretty sure, have done anime collaborations. I would argue that in itself is mainstream.
That is mainstream, and that's the best argument I've heard so far.
I was gonna say that, y'all.
Yeah, but you got mad. So you lost. Anyway, problem is, you guys can have as much attention and be in the mainstream as you want, but you're still a weird, isolated community. Right? You're all still in your anime bubble. You're all still just there, right? Okay. You're all still jerking each other off and whatever.
Curb down the obscenities.
And because of the way the community is perceived outside of the community, it's difficult for someone like me to be like, oh yeah, those people have a lot of influence over culture. Okay. Because I would say they don't.
Yeah. So, you brought up some pretty extreme points there. What I will say to those points, those are very extreme. But just because something is perceived to be weird to you doesn't mean that
it's not about it being perceived weird to me. It's about how those perceptions, which are widespread and matter, affect the way everyone else engages with it, right? I I wish it was more like that. All right, thank you, everyone. Disclaimer, I actually don't hate anime. I just don't watch it. But thank you, everyone, for coming. It was a great debate.